Look at most Renaissance paintings of the Last Supper, and you see a calm, holy gathering. But on the actual night before the crucifixion, the atmosphere was claustrophobic and tense. This was a high-stakes dinner in the shadow of an impending execution. For 3 years, Jesus had poured his life into these 12 men. He traveled with them, shared meals with them, and demonstrated exactly what a kingdom built on service looked like. That massive, intensive project was now coming to a close. Yet, if you measure the outcome of those 3 years by the students' comprehension, the project is an objective failure. On this final night, Peter makes loud promises of loyalty he will soon break. Philip and Thomas are still confused about the basic mission, demanding elementary proof. Beneath the theological milestones we usually associate with this night, the communion bread, the pouring of wine, lies a severe human crisis. Jesus is staring down torture, surrounded by close friends who still do not understand him, leaving him with the overwhelming feeling of entirely wasted effort. Then there is Judas. As the group's treasurer, he held the highest level of financial trust among the disciples. He chose this moment to discard that history, walking away from the table and into the literal and metaphorical dark. Back at the table, Peter confidently declares he will lay down his life for Jesus. It is a bold promise, but a completely empty one. Within hours, out of pure cowardice, he will swear he never even knew the man. Thomas argues that they don't even know where Jesus is going, let alone how to follow. Philip bluntly asks Jesus to just show them God, as if the last 36 months never happened. The cognitive dissonance at the table is staggering. This diagram illustrates a concept known as a sunk cost void, or what we might call the abyss. It represents the crushing psychological weight of pouring massive, continuous resources, time, trust, and affection into someone, only to be met with a zero-yield output of apathy and betrayal. The weight of the impending crucifixion is matched by the psychological agony of this room. Jesus is sitting in the silence of complete relational burnout and total isolation. When faced with this level of betrayal and exhaustion, the natural human response is self-protection. We get angry, we withdraw emotionally, or we demand a return on our investment before we give another inch. Instead, Jesus executes a radical physical pivot. He takes off his outer garment, wraps a towel around his waist, and kneels on the floor in front of the very people failing him. He proceeds to wash their feet. He even takes the feet of Judas in his hands and washes them, fully aware of the impending betrayal. He knows Judas will reject him, yet serves him anyway. This graphic shows a standard feedback loop, representing what we call transactional love. Transactional love is a conditional exchange. It is based strictly on merit, expected return, and the receiver proving they are worthy of the effort. Jesus shatters the scale entirely, introducing a model of radical love. This kind of affection originates entirely from the nature of the giver. It flows outward continuously, completely regardless of the receiver's actions or merit. Love reaches its peak when it is freely given to those who are completely unworthy of it in the moment. Having demonstrated this, Jesus issues a seemingly impossible final command to the remaining disciples. He tells them to love one another exactly as he just loved them. The problem is human limitation. Our capacity to care is easily exhausted. We are highly prone to burnout, and our natural default setting is deeply transactional. Left to our own devices, our reserves run dry. Jesus introduces the divine countermeasure to human emotional exhaustion, the paraclete. The term comes from ancient Greek, meaning a helper called to one side. Here we see a schematic of a depleted central reservoir. This helper acts as a constant internal reminder of radical love. When human empathy runs out, this infinite secondary source sustains them, creating cascading flows of affection to others. The disciples don't understand any of this at the dinner table. The true impact of this kind of love is almost always delayed. It is only understood in retrospect, realized through memory, absence, and the painful process of maturity. The paraclete ensures that an act of unconditional love functions exactly like a seed in winter. It guarantees future growth. entirely independent of any immediate, visible results. If you have ever poured your heart into a relationship, a child, or a community, only to be met with silence or betrayal, you know the exhaustion of that dinner table. You know the deep, rational desire to just quit. But love poured out is never truly wasted. Even when it is met with complete rejection, it remains buried in the soil of that person's life, waiting. When your own capacity to care hits the abyss and you feel you have nothing left to give, you don't have to manufacture more affection. You can draw from the exact same radical source that allowed Jesus to kneel down and wash Judas's feet. Because this radical love is entirely untethered from expectation and relies entirely on the giver rather than the receiver, it cannot be killed by betrayal. It becomes an enduring force, quite literally, stronger than death.